Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. Vaccine mandates. We are learning more tonight about where our local hospitals stand on the decision to possibly require employees to get the COVID-19 shot. Big Fox's Matt Kleindinst has continuing coverage. He spoke with the leader from Guthrie Health System.
Good evening, and Dr. Michael Scalzone says Guthrie has not mandated the COVID vaccine for their employees at this point. They are instead working on educating their staff members to do the right thing about getting vaccinated.
The more people we can get vaccinated, of course, the better it is for the overall community.
Dr. Scalzone is watching how things unfold at New York's largest hospital system. On Friday, New York Presbyterian announced that the COVID vaccine was now mandatory for its employees. Guthrie, meanwhile, has not decided whether or not they will follow suit.
And although we consider, periodically whether or not a mandate should be put in place, I think we're waiting to see what happens with other systems as they move forward.
Any future decisions on a vaccine mandate will depend on state policy and regulatory guidelines, which may be influenced if the FDA grants full approval of the COVID vaccine.
I think that will be an important aspect of what the states and public health departments decide as they give us guidance around vaccination.
Dr. Scalzone says over 70% of Guthrie employees have gotten the vaccine, with more lining up week to week. Guthrie is relying on educating their staff to bump up vaccination rates.
We want them to understand there have been hundreds of millions of doses given of this vaccine across the country, and that side effects are rare, that it's very effective, and as we see the infection rate dropping in the region, vaccination is our best tool.
Matt Kleindinst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
New York has reached a vaccine landmark today. 70% of adults have at least one dose of the COVID vaccine. That means that capacity limits, health screenings, and cleaning protocols for most businesses and social settings are being lifted effective immediately. The announcement comes as New York's COVID positivity rate has dropped to 0.4%.
What New York has done is extraordinary. Not only do we have the lowest COVID positivity rate in the United States of America, we have hit 70% vaccination. It is the national goal, and we hit it ahead of schedule.
Landmarks throughout the state will be lit up blue and gold, and fireworks shows will be held this evening to mark the milestone. Residents are still asked to follow current CDC mask guidelines. The U.S. passed a grim milestone today, more than 600,000 deaths since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Johns Hopkins University also reports the U.S. has tallied more than 33 million confirmed cases in the country. 8 additional countries have recorded more than 100,000 deaths. More than 310 million doses of the vaccine have been distributed nationwide. The Biden administration is hoping to have 70% of U.S. adults to have at least one COVID-19 shot before July 4th. Results from a new study suggest COVID-19 was circulating in the U.S. weeks before the first cases were officially reported. Scientists tested 24,000 frozen blood samples that were collected from volunteers in early 2020 for an unrelated National Institutes of Health study. At least 9 of those samples from 5 different states showed antibodies to the novel coronavirus. That indicates that people likely contracted the disease before the first case was officially reported on January 24th. Some of the samples were collected in early January. Elmira police investigating tonight after an early morning shooting on DeWitt Avenue. Police say the shooting happened around 3 this morning. Officers say the victim was shot in the foot outside a residence in the 500 block of DeWitt. The victim said he knows the shooter, but that person took off after firing the shot, and police are still searching for the suspect. If you have information about this case, call the Elmira Police Department at 607-737-5626. House lawmakers are back to work this week trying to finalize an infrastructure proposal that can garner bipartisan support. But there are still big disagreements on the price tag and what should be included in that bill. Madeline Rivera has details from Washington.
Time is ticking for Congress to pass a deal on infrastructure. A bipartisan group of 10 senators have hammered out a proposal costing $974 billion over 5 years and totaling $1.2 trillion over 8. Senator Susan Collins was one of those members.
It includes provisions for resiliency, for strengthening the materials that we use to build our roads and bridges.
But some, particularly progressives, are still critical. Senator Bernie Sanders opposes the plan, and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't think the package goes far enough.
It's not going to create the millions of union jobs that we need in this country.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says any infrastructure deal must include bold action on climate change. He says talks are moving forward on two tracks. One is bipartisan. The second
pulls in other elements of President Biden's American Jobs Plan, which will be considered even if it does not have bipartisan support.
As for how to pay for the plan, Collins says they won't be undoing the 2017 tax reform bill, a non-starter for Republicans. She mentioned other potential options, including repurposing some unspent COVID funds from the $1.9 trillion stimulus package passed in March, and taxes for electric cars.
Right now, they are literally free riders because they're not paying any gas tax.
Taxes for electric cars are likely to be a sticking point for President Biden, who has pledged not to raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000.
Parched soil, dry, dead plants and grass, and now a dangerous heat wave in the western United States, with winds expected to ramp up in some areas. The combination is dreaded as wildfires burn in a number of states. And as Britt Conway reports, firefighters worry they're in for another brutal wildfire season.
Fire after fire after fire. Thousands of acres have been scorched in the western U.S. with no relief in sight.
We're easily a month or more ahead of fire weather conditions for this time of year.
In fact, from the beginning of this year through June 11th, more than 833,000 acres have burned in nearly 27,000 fires across the U.S. During that same period last year, it was just over 658,000 acres in more than 20,000 fires. That's according to the National Interagency Fire Center, which is also tracking 25 large fires in 8 states right now: Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, Utah, Oregon, Nevada, Wyoming, and California. 7 of those large fires are in Arizona, including the Telegraph Fire, which has burned more than 100,000 acres. There have been evacuations in parts of the state and in California, too. So many fires in so many places presents a significant challenge.
The system of resources becomes strained when multiple regions are active, like we're starting to see already.
Making things worse, drought and heat. The areas experiencing extreme drought are bracing for intense heat now, too. By the end of the week, more than 250 heat records could be tied, fueling the fire, literally.
We reach a point across multiple western states where there's, no matter how many we have, there's not enough fire engines to put one in every driveway.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Toilet paper and food were flying off the shelves at the start of the pandemic. So much so, they were hard to find in stores. Now that's no longer the case, but as Denise Dillon reports, there is an important building block that is now in scarce supply.
Lumber is definitely a hot commodity these days, and now Cobb police say thieves are sneaking into new construction neighborhoods and stealing lumber and other building materials.
Pent-up demand for materials and then just not enough supply.
Lumber is scarce, and if you can find it, you're paying a whole lot more. Dan Cox with Peach State Lumber says blame it on COVID. When the pandemic hit, sawmills had to shut down and are still trying to catch up.
Coming out of COVID, the mills just didn't have enough labor, didn't have enough logs to be able to make material. And then once they got it, it takes 6 to 8 months to produce that.
Of course, with people stuck at home for a year, demand went up.
Cabinets, millworks, bookcases, what the wives want.
The cost of freight and shipping is also high. So all of a sudden, wood is enticing to thieves.
With the increase of lumber prices, that people are actually coming out and stealing lumber from construction sites.
Cobb police say they've had a number of reports of thefts from new home construction sites.
They're hauling a decent amount of lumber. They'll come out there in sometimes different types of trucks or trailers and load everything and just take them with them.
They're warning contractors and others to secure whatever they can. Don't leave it sitting out and invest in cameras if possible. Dan Cox says he's not surprised crooks are now going after lumber.
It doesn't surprise us, no. It is all very valuable at this point.
So here's a question I'm sure a lot of people may be wondering. When will the price of lumber come down? Dan Cox with Peach State Lumber says probably by the end of the summer. He thinks by then supply may catch up. And maybe lumber might not be so enticing to thieves.
Still ahead tonight, as the U.S. passed that grim milestone of 600,000 lives lost to COVID-19, top U.S. health officials are sending out a warning about the worrying Delta variant.
If we look at what happened in India, we definitely have cause for concern.
More on the variant health experts say is on its way to becoming the dominant strain of coronavirus in the country.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. A cold front is pushing through the Twin Tiers, and it is going to bring drier air and also cooler air. And so as we wake up tomorrow morning, temperatures will be on the chilly side, around 48 degrees, plenty of sunshine, and then 57 degrees at 8 o'clock with partly cloudy skies. We are expecting this trough to really dig southward. The jet stream moves into the Delmarva area, allowing for cooler air to come in on the wings of north winds, and so temperatures will be dropping as we head into tomorrow. Our dew points have been in the 60s and 50s today. It will drop down into the 40s for tomorrow, so it is going to be very dry air that will be in place, and with that dry air, that will allow those temperatures to really plunge down in the overnight, and so we do have a couple of cool mornings on tap. But for tomorrow afternoon, temperatures will be around 65 degrees at 10, by noon around 68, and then in the afternoon we're expecting highs near that 70-degree mark before dropping down to around 67. Plenty of sunshine and no weather concerns for your Wednesday. However, we have another system that will be arriving for the end of the week, and it is going to bring the possibility of a few thunderstorms toward our area over the weekend, and so the wet weather will be back. Get their umbrella ready, but for the next couple of days, I'm expecting it to be dry. Mainly clear conditions tonight, temperatures around 47 degrees in Corning as well as in Elmira. As we head into tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. It's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day, so if you want to do anything outside, tomorrow will be the day to do it. It's going to be cool enough to do gardening or just do anything, running outside. Highs around 71 degrees in Corning and also in Elmira, cooler in Perkinsville at only around 68 degrees. So temperatures will be a good 10 degrees below normal. As we head into the rest of the week, we are expecting the dry conditions to continue through your Thursday. We warm up to around 75 degrees and then about 10 degrees warmer than Wednesday with a high around 82 degrees on Friday. It's still going to be nice, but clouds will start to increase as that next system approaches. Overnight lows, take a look at how low they're going to get, down into the 40s. So it is going to be chilly, but as the moisture returns and those clouds return, notice our overnight lows will be bumped up to around 60 degrees. It is going to be chilly on Saturday with the high around 79 degrees with chances of thunderstorms. It looks like right now that will clear out by Sunday. We warm up to around 81 degrees, plenty of sunshine on Monday as well with the high around 80 degrees, but there could be an afternoon thunderstorm or two, and then cooling down to around 77 on Tuesday.
As the U.S. passed a grim milestone today, 600,000 COVID-19 deaths. Top U.S. health officials are sending out a warning about the worrying Delta variant. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither explains the concern.
Hundreds of thousands of lives lost to COVID-19 in the U.S., while average new case counts are a fraction of what they were during the pandemic's peak in the United States. The Delta variant is on its way to becoming the dominant strain of coronavirus in the country.
If we look at what happened in India, we definitely have cause for concern.
A recent Scottish study published in The Lancet suggests the Delta variant first identified in India is associated with approximately double the risk of hospitalization compared to the Alpha variant first identified in the UK. The study's early findings suggest 2 COVID-19 vaccine doses provide protection against the Delta variant, but it may be a lower level of protection than against the Alpha variant. Oxford and AstraZeneca's vaccine, not yet authorized in the U.S., was 60% effective against infection from the Delta variant, while Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccine was found to provide 79% protection from that variant.
If you have an 80% efficacy or effectiveness rate against this particular Delta variant, that's better than your natural immune system could do against it.
As you move into fall and early winter, because this is a winter virus, this is when you would see an explosion or a surge of infections.
A big concern now, the Delta variant could spark new outbreaks in areas of the U.S. where vaccination rates are low.
When a virus is more contagious, you need to have a higher percentage of the population that's protected, immunized, if you're going to stop the spread.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
A Florida mother has a message to parents. Take a close look at your child's toys. This comes after her 2-year-old was rushed to the hospital after swallowing more than a dozen magnetic balls. Megan Mulatto reports.
Hannah Arrington is a mom of 5. She says sometime in April, one of her older kids brought tiny magnetic balls home from school. Shortly after, her youngest son, Conan, started having stomach pain that eventually sent him to the ER.
From the time he got them from whoever he got them from, Conan ended up swallowing 16 of them, and we had no idea.
There are a number of products on the market that match that description. One brand, Buckyballs, was banned by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission for causing serious injuries, such as holes in the stomach and intestines or even death after being ingested. But the balls made their way back onto store shelves and into the Arrington household after a judge lifted the ban.
As he ate them, they went down into his digestive tract, and then each time he would find another one somewhere in the house and swallow it, it would click together and it'd perforate a hole through, his stomach all the way down into his colon area.
After an extensive surgery, the magnets are out, but Conan is back in the hospital on a feeding tube as doctors run tests to figure out why he can't keep anything down. His mom's message to the public: double, even triple check what your kids bring home.
Me and my husband never thought that we would have to pretty much pat our kids down when they come home from school. And you check your kid's backpack, and you ask how their day is, but how often do you go through their pant pockets, their shirt pocket? It makes you feel like you failed your kids.
As the economy comes back to life and people are spending money again, you may notice that some things are getting more expensive. Why? Mary Maloney explains.
From beef to home improvement, even airfare. As Americans begin opening up their stores and their wallets again, prices all around are rising along with increased demand.
We've seen our meat prices probably go up to record high levels right now because the demand is so strong with all our restaurants booming right now. So there's been an unprecedented increase in especially meat prices right now.
In contrast to increased demand, a decrease in supplies. Many supply chains were interrupted during the pandemic, raising costs even further. When COVID-19 made it difficult for lumber mills to produce building supplies, new home prices and home improvement prices soared.
The prices for fence materials, in particular, posts, 2x4s, pickets, they've all tripled.
As those COVID restrictions lift, people are once again taking to the friendly skies in droves. But after dirt cheap prices in 2020, consumers are now being met with sticker shock as they book what AAA is calling their revenge travel. Delta CEO Ed Bastian says while the airlines are working to add more flights, costs could still go up.
Go out and hold your seats and get your plans booked because pricing will eventually start to respond to the big surge in demand.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mary Maloney.
Federal regulators are now investigating Amazon electronics after some of the products reportedly burst into flames. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is looking into at least 8 products sold under the Amazon Basics brand. Electronics include battery chargers, surge protectors, and a voice-activated microwave that consumers said caught fire. Other buyers reported products that melted or exploded. Amazon declined to comment on the investigation but said it evaluates every report of safety issues and takes the appropriate action. Millions of medical devices seen as life support for many are being recalled because of a potentially toxic defect. Philips issued a recall notification on millions of its sleep apnea and CPAP machines. The company says the recall affects several varieties of machines, including some DreamStation products. The problem is a foam in the machines used to soften the sound made by the machines. According to the company, the foam can deteriorate and project tiny particles and gases that can irritate airways, cause headaches, and possibly be toxic or carry cancer risks. Meet the teen who took to the ocean to get to school, and is the latest workout trend for your dog? Plus, will an adorable four-legged thief ever leave a life of crime? Steve Nannis has today's Take a Look at This.
Some teens can't wait for the day when they drive to school. But for Jonah Lee, he'd rather take the water. For his junior and senior year, Lee kayaked a half a mile across the scenic Pearl Harbor Channel each morning.
You see all sorts of things, from some submarines to ships, aircraft carriers, transport vessels.
Lee would then catch a ride with a buddy the rest of the way to school. Taking alternative transportation runs in the family. Lee's dad, Benjamin, who is a physician in the Navy, bikes and kayaks to work. Living in a place that hits well over triple digits, you might be getting up earlier and earlier to beat the heat to give Fido some exercise. Well, if you're in Las Vegas, there's a solution. Run Dog is a gym on wheels just for your pup. The air-conditioned van has treadmills so they can run to their heart's content.
Dogs aren't like humans. They have 4 legs, not 2. They need twice the exercise that we do.
Kate Felmet of Oregon is an ICU doctor and had to take masking up seriously during the pandemic. That appears to have rubbed off on her cat Esme, who started showing up with stolen masks.
At one point it was, 6, 7, 8 every single day. She brought home 11 at her height of mask thievery.
But it didn't stop there. Esme began snatching paintbrushes, swimsuits, and more.
Spider-Man knee pads that have been stolen from the same little girl 3 times, and we've had to return them over and over.
Felmet has even taken to publicly shaming her klepto cat, hoping she'll turn away from her life of crime. For Take a Look at This, I'm Steve Nannis.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. Buckle up, thrill seekers. Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey calls this the world's tallest, fastest, and longest single rail roller coaster. And the Jersey Devil Coaster open to the public on Sunday, so you can check it out. It is 13 stories tall with a max speed of 58 miles per hour with more than 3,000 feet of track. Now the first drop is 130 feet. Unlike most coasters where you share the ride side by side, on this coaster people are seated low and in single file. Each train holds 12 passengers. It holds its distinctions as a single rail coaster, but it is dwarfed by the world's tallest coaster overall, which happens to be at the same amusement park. King Dakar is 456 feet tall with a top speed of 128 miles per hour. I would happily get on either of them. I love it. From our whole team, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a thrilling evening.